Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Pro tip: when you start a new job, don't immediately assume you know how to do things better or more efficiently than people working that job a lot longer than you. You usually don't know the minutiae that need to be considered for efficiency. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. That report should not take more than 1 hour. I was working at a retail outletter who specializes in hunting, fishing, and other outdoor equipment. A couple years after starting there, I received a promotion to the inventory management team in the lead role. My role basically consisted of generating all the reports for the managers, for inventory tracking, and for pricing adjustments. I had a manager that suggested I might be able to improve upon the reporting process and that any time I saved half should go to the other work tasks, on the other half should go to improving myself. After a few months, I had automated a number of the report generations for the weekly manager reports. I began automating reports for inventory. One thing I realized would improve the effectiveness of my team was to add information from other reports to pinpoint target locations and track down items that were missing during an inventory audit. This would save each member of the team 5 to 10 hours a week in searching for items to close out an inventory on it. To add the other stuff in added 1 hour to generating the report, taking it from 1 hour to 2 hours to generate. I know my efforts were effective and added value to the company based on similar-sized buildings needing 2 or 3 people to complete the job I was doing myself. This was further validated by the fact that I'd been used to train the inventory managers and/or team at other locations across 5 states. I ended up with a new manager, and a couple of weeks after that, I was going to be on vacation for a week. This left my new manager having to follow the directions to generate all the reports without my additions. The week after I got back, while running the reports, he asked me why it's taking me 2 hours to get the report done. I point out that I'm adding additional information into the report, which will save each other member of the team 5 to 10 hours. The new manager replies with, "I was able to get the report done in 1 hour. It should not take you any longer than that." Again, point out the value add of saving 30 to 50 hours per week by adding things to the report. He again responds with something along the same lines of, "I can get the report done in 1 hour. You should not take more than that to do the same thing." Okay, bud. Each report I completed over the remainder of that week had fewer additional pieces of information. I stopped using all of my VBA, JS, Java, Visual Basic scripts, and macros. I was effectively turning my job into a series of very small shell scripts. Insert joke about replacing your job with a series of very small shell scripts. By the next week, I was able to get that report done in 1 hour without any additional information added. This small change resulted in about 48 additional hours to the inventory audit process. Removing all macros, etc. for manager reports changed the ability to generate all reports in 4 to 5 hours back into a process that took 2 full days of my time. None of the additional reports that were generated throughout the week were able to be completed and were added to the workload of this new manager. The following week, I was supposed to be training the warehouse lead to complete all the tasks I was supposed to be doing. We didn't have time to go over more than the documentation on what reports to run and what the tools were. The next 2 weeks, I was training the team at my new building, launching in another state. I taught them the methods I previously was using on how to be more effective in the role. As an added bonus, I received a job offer for somewhere else during this time I was in another state. I was able to put in my 2 weeks' notice, where I would only have 3 days left after my training trip, sadly leaving no time to train my replacement. And our second story. Screw over the neighborhood and have your beach views revoked. My family and I live in a nice suburb about a block away from a great beach. We moved in a couple of years ago. The community is on a slight hill, so everyone enjoys a small view of the sea and bay from their houses, and everyone knows everyone else. Previously, the neighbors had all gotten along and been friendly, but that all changed just before we moved in. The house next to ours, which was some prime real estate, had been bought by some developers who planned to tear it down and put up some double-story gaudy monstrosity full of small units. Many of the neighbors took issue with this, as the community is full of single-story houses, and double-story would be able to peep into everyone's backyards, as well as blocking people's views of the bay. So a lot of the neighbors took action to prevent it being constructed. They signed petitions, threatened legal action, did everything possible to try and stop it from happening. Eventually, after a few months of this, developers decide it's too much bother and sell property to someone else. Neighbors celebrate their victory over nasty, unfeeling developer and think that's the end of that. A few weeks later, a local couple who'd been spearheading the effort to drive the developers out of the place bought the property they'd been fighting so hard to preserve. And they promptly demolished it. Then, surprise, surprise, they built an even bigger and taller two-story house than the developers had originally planned. They sold their own house and moved a couple of doors down into their new one after it had been built. Naturally, everyone felt pretty pissed off, but didn't ultimately challenge it that much. The couple indicated they would fight tooth and nail to build what they wanted. They were no longer invited to some local barbecues, but that was the only real repercussion. They now have superb views of surrounding area and beach at everyone else's expense. Anyway, so we move in shortly after all this and hear from many annoyed neighbors how the couple basically effed everyone and can now see into everyone else's yard. With our backyard facing their balcony, my dad decides he wants a little more privacy and plants some very large and sturdy trees right at the back of our property along the fence line. As our house is situated between theirs and the beach, these trees, when fully grown in a couple of years, will block out any view they might have of the beach. In addition, the trees will be mostly unprotected from winds coming off the bay. While they can live through such winds, they will undoubtedly shed a ton of leaves into their nice, clean pool and yard. Enjoy your new view and lowered property value, you jerks. And our next story. Return policy. My boss had a family emergency and asked me to cover his shift this weekend. I decided to help out. They have all been super sweet to me over the years, so I said yes. If anyone hasn't read any of my other posts, I used to work at a small local toy store. Some other background for the story. We do a Dutch auction sale where certain products get marked off to a certain discount, and after a bit, whatever's left gets discounted even more. We also have a 30-day return policy that's labeled on any gift receipt we give out, and the date of sale is written on the gift receipt. A customer walks in with her kids. The girl has a craft kit and is trying to exchange it. At this point, I was handling another customer and a younger coworker was trying to help. She peels off the gift receipt without paying attention to any of the details and scans the item. The item turns out to be one of the Dutch auction items that's labeled as final sale. My coworker gets confused by the error on the screen as it was saying to not accept the return, so I walk over. I extend my apologies and said how it was final sale and it was never supposed to have a gift receipt in the first place. The woman's mad and is saying how that's BS that her daughter came in expecting to get something new. She was also bullying my younger coworker, so I really wasn't trying to go out of my way to make an exception. I told her I can bend the rules just this once, but I could only give her the amount it's valued at in our system currently for store credit, $6. She reluctantly agreed and walks around the store with her daughter. I asked my coworker what the date on the gift receipt was, and she said it was 7/21, less than a month ago. Finally, she comes back up and starts complaining how there's no way her friend only spent $6 and how we're just trying to pocket the money. I explained the sale and how, while she did not buy it for $6, it's now valued at that. Again, I try to apologize for the confusion, but she starts to focus her anger on me. I tell her how I was not the one who made this mistake, and I'm apologizing on part for whoever did. But she's just not budging. She's trying to force me to tell her what the full value was, and she looks over the register and sees that it was originally $32.99. She then decides that $6 wasn't enough and wants to take the gift back, with the tossed-out gift receipt, so she could contact my manager about our policy and about me. My coworker said that she tossed out the gift receipt, and the lady starts yelling how it was so convenient that she tossed it out. I told my coworker to just make a new one with the date that was on it. My coworker goes to write 7/21, and the lady starts yelling again. Lady, it wasn't 7/21, it was 6/21. You guys should pay more attention to your gift receipts because it says right there that we can exchange an item if it has the gift receipt. Me. Oh, miss, I didn't see the original gift receipt, but under that line about the exchanges, it clearly says you only have 30 days to make an exchange. Basically, the woman goes from potentially getting $6 back to $0. I talked to my boss about it later and said how I could have made a personal exception at that point and gave her the full value in store credit. But with the way she was behaving, I wasn't going to. My boss agreed with me, especially after hearing that multiple customers walked over to me and apologized on that woman's behalf. If you're going to try to quote the rules to an employee, make sure you actually read the full fine print. And don't be a jerk, because we can probably help you more if you're actually pleasant. And our last story. I refuse to sell back the portion of the property I bought out from my sister. I, 32-year-old female, and sister, 35-year-old female, inherited this apartment from our grandmother. We owned it 50-50. It wasn't in a very nice part of town, a bit run down. When I was 28, my sister ran into a bit of financial trouble. I helped her as much as I could, but it just wasn't feasible for me to keep giving her cash in the long term. Her credit was shot, so she couldn't get a loan either. I ended up buying out her share of the apartment at market rate. I got the apartment, and her financial troubles were eased. In the past 4 years, that neighborhood has gone through a lot of changes. Increased government funding, better schools, etc. has made crime go down and driven property prices up. So the value of the apartment has risen substantially compared to when I bought her out. This has created a lot of conflict on our relationship. She wants me to A, either pay her the difference between what I paid her for the apartment back then and its value now, or B, let her buy back 50%, but at the price I bought her out for 4 years ago, or C, pay her half of the rent I get from tenants. I refused. I don't want to go through that again. We've been bickering back and forth over it, and it's honestly very exhausting. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.